Perhaps you know of a certain French president, Emmanuel Macron. You know, the one who said that France would be better off if the French complained less? That Macron. Or who said police officers can't write? Or the one who dismissed the Yellow Vest protests as a bunch of thugs? Yeah, that Macron. Well, he's losing. Greetings, everyone. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You have a new home here where we analyze current events in light of some super awesome conservative trends so you can live in the present in light of even better things to come. And if the latest polls coming out of France are any indicator, a new conservative nationalist populist France is right around the corner. But first, did you read about the Dutch National Bank? They're holding over $20 billion worth of gold in their vaults, and they just bought more. Why, you ask? Well, because as they note on their website, gold always retains its value, crisis or no crisis. So ask yourself, will your personal IRA accounts still hold their value in a crisis? Do you have ownership and control over your own retirement savings? If you're not sure, you need to sort out your financial security, and our good friends over at Noble Gold can help you do just that. So give them a call at 877-646-5347, or you can check them out at noblegoldinvestments.com and make sure to tell them that Dr. Steve Turley sent you. They're going to take good care of you. All right, so here's what the latest poll information is showing us, this weekend polls. If the presidential election in France were held today, the conservative nationalist populist Marine Le Pen would win the first round with 28% of the vote, while Macron would lose with 26-27% of the vote, all depending on who the other candidates were that were running against him. Now, Macron either has the 26 or 27%. Le Pen wins either way. Now, this is important because in the last presidential election back in 2017, Macron won the first round with 24% of the vote. Marine Le Pen came in second with 21%. Then Macron went on to decisively win the second round of elections when the two candidates faced off. And in the second round, Macron won decisively with 66% of the vote to Marine Le Pen's 34%. Macron won basically by a 2-to-1 margin. Now, what's so interesting about this poll is that while Macron is still projected to win the second round, he does so by a substantially less margin. And this time he would win 55-45. In other words, this poll shows that Macron has dropped 10 points as Le Pen's support has dramatically risen 10 points. Now, keep in mind, this poll follows Le Pen's astonishing victory in the European elections back in May of this year, when her party National Rally won 24% of the vote, while Macron's party only got 22%. And that was National Rally's second European election victory in a row. They won back in 2014 as well. So what's going on here in France? Why is Macron dropping and why is Marine Le Pen surging? Here's what I think is really going on in France. But in order to understand it, we have to meet a little boy growing up in northern Italy. And one day, this young boy and his family, they moved to a new apartment. However, when they arrived, they were shocked, to say the least, and that's because they found that the previous tenants, all of whom were non-Italians, foreigners, these tenants refused to leave the apartment. They were squatters, even though the little boy's family did everything they needed to do to move in. Now, as the little boy grew up, he began to see that event in his life as symbolic of what was happening to the whole of Italy. Italy was being overrun by foreigners, immigrants, refugees. And these migrants were not just becoming a permanent part of Italy, but they were actually beginning to replace Italians. Moreover, he recognized that Italy's political leaders, they weren't doing anything about it. And they weren't doing anything about it because they knew that Italians were like hopelessly shrinking. Italians were actually in the process of basically disappearing from the earth, having one of the lowest fertility levels in Europe. But far from acting on that, far from proposing incentives to raise birth rates among Italians, Italian leaders were satisfied with just importing labor from other countries, particularly from Northern Africa and the Middle East. And so this little boy, now all grown up, turned to the only political party that he saw that was taking this issue seriously. But it was a very, very marginal party. They weren't they were getting no more than about 3-4% support in the polls. Italians appeared largely resigned to voting for either globalist center-right or globalist center-left governments that were committed to giving Italians more globalism. And so our little boy, now all grown up, decided to take charge of this marginal party and radically change it. This peripheral political party had up to this point believed that the answer was actually seceding from southern Italy, seceding from Rome. They thought all their problems stemmed from the corrupt government in Rome. But this new leader believed that problems with Rome were symptomatic of far more global worldwide dynamics, much of which centered in Brussels and the EU. And so he remade the party as one who stood for uniting all of Italy against the forces of globalization and secular aristocracy, which climaxed at a rally in front of a Milan cathedral, where our little boy, all grown up, stood in front of tens of thousands of Italians, holding a rosary in his hand and declaring that he and his party, which he renamed Lega, the League, think of the Justice League, he and his party Lega were the true defenders of Christian Europe against globalization. And as a result, in a matter of just 3 years, this Lega party, under the leadership of the one and only Matteo Salvini, has grown to become the single most popular party in all of Italy by double digits, not even close. Lega Party is twice as popular as their closest competitor, and they are simply biding their time. They are counting down the days to Italy's next national election, when they will storm parliament as the #1 party in the nation. That's what I believe is going on right now in France. What we're seeing is a once relatively peripheral political party, National Front, transforming into National Rally, which has become a major, if not increasingly, the major political party in the nation. We now have 2 separate polls, an official poll via an election, the European election in May, and an unofficial one via simply the survey over the weekend, that shows that when you line up all the political parties, Marine Le Pen's National Rally tops all the others. National Rally wins. And so what we're now seeing is the very real possibility of a breakaway. Marine Le Pen and National Rally appear to be surging in the polls and may end up completely overwhelming Macron's En Marche party by the time we get to 2020, the next presidential election. If that pattern holds, like what we've seen in Italy, then that's exactly what we're going to see in France. Now, before you go, I just loaded up an awesome video on the incredible hypocrisy of Greta Thunberg. How dare you? She's finding herself currently in a ridiculous situation. She's basically stuck in the United States, and you're going to get a kick out of this. But I also introduced you to someone I consider to be a true environmentalist hero, one that I think you're really going to love. So make sure to click on the link at the top left of this video, and I'll see you over there. God bless.